Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some Christmas stencils from Pretty Pink Posh. For my first card, I'll be using the Layered Winter Wreath stencil set. For dies, I have Holiday Birds, Merry Christmas Shadow, and I'll also be using one of the Sprigs from the Holiday Mug Edition set. I will be stenciling on some pattern paper. This is a lovely wood grain design. It's from Cartabella's Home Again collection, but I don't believe it's available any longer. I love the look of the wood design, so I bought several of the 12 by 12 sheets. It has this really fun linen texture finish. I have my paper in Waffle Flowers mini stencil mat. The stencil creates this fun circular frame, but since I'm not making a 6 by 6 card, I adjusted the paper so I could still get that fun design of the stencil. The first stencil layer creates the leaves and the pine needles. I use Catherine Pooler's Spruce ink color. The second stencil layer will add all of the branches. I'm using Icing on the Cake. This is another Catherine Pooler ink color. This is one of my favorite brown ink colors. I'm adding a little bit more of that circular design toward the top of the card panel since I will have the sentiment on the lower side. I'll be making an A2 size card. Once I finish with the branch stencil layer, I'll bring in the final stencil layer and that will add all of the berries. You could use different ink colors for the different sets of berries, but I'm sticking with just the Peppermint Scrub ink color from Catherine Pooler. I'll remove the final stencil layer and look at this really fun background. It has a very rustic look. I'll trim down this panel to 5 3/8 of an inch by 4 1/8 of an inch, and I'll layer it on some brown cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I did notice just a tiny bit of the white card base showing on the left side, so I went and trimmed that off. I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the die cut pieces. I have them in one of Scrapbook.com's sort and stack trays. And if you weren't aware, Scrapbook.com now carries Pretty Pink Posh products. I was so excited when they announced it. I cut out the Merry Christmas sentiment from some red satin mirror cardstock. I'll layer it on some craft cardstock, and the craft color almost matches the wood grain background. I won't forget to dot my eye. Put a small drop of glue down first, and I did use an embellishment wand to pick up that tiny piece. After adhering the word Christmas on the craft cardstock, I layered it again on a vellum die cut piece. I offset them slightly, creating a small drop shadow of vellum underneath the sentiment, and that'll help it stand out against the stenciled background. I'll do the same thing for the word Merry. Now I'll start assembling one of the holiday birds. I'm making this bird a cardinal. I use red cardstock for the wing and the body, black cardstock for the beak and the eye, and these are tiny pieces, so I am using an embellishment wand to pick them up, adding just that small dot of Barely Art glue, then pressing them in place. The cardinal will be wearing a pretty green scarf. I'll adhere that down with some glue. Pretty Pink Posh's bird dies have been very popular, so I was excited to see the new holiday bird set. Now I'll flip over the sentiment, put thin foam dimension on the back. I have cut some of the foam squares in half, that way I can fit them behind the narrow areas of the sentiment. I'll also put foam dimension behind the bird. I'm not adding any underneath the tail. Now I'll remove the release paper from the foam dimension. I'll first attach the word Christmas, trying to center it and putting it lower on the card. Then I'll add the word Merry right above it. And I'm leaving a little more space on the left side of the sentiment, and that's where I'll place the bird. It'll be sitting just partially on top of the letter M. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some gold foliage pieces, and the die is from the Holiday Mug Edition set. I cut them out of gold pearlescent cardstock. I'll put 1 gold foliage piece above the bird on the left side and 2 on the right side underneath the word Christmas. I did pull off the stems, that way it was easier to tuck underneath the die cut pieces. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the rustic look of the card, and using the red mirror cardstock for the sentiment really adds a pretty detail. For card design number 2, I'm using the winter word stencil. I have Build a Stocking die set. The sentiment is from Sentiment Strips Christmas. And I have an assortment of other die sets where I'm only using maybe 1 or 2 pieces. Pine Sprigs, Fall Basket, Candy Treats, Holiday Mug Editions, and I forgot to show that I'm also using the Eyelet rectangle set. I have a silicone mat on my craft table, and this time for stenciling I'm using Waffle Flowers grip mat. I have the 6.5 by 8.5 inch size. I'll place a piece of white shimmer cardstock on the grip mat, then I'll lay the stencil on top. And with the grip mat underneath, the paper and stencil aren't moving. Now I'll use Catherine Pooler's polished ink color, and I'm doing a very light coat of ink since I want a very subtle stenciled background. Now I'll remove this stencil. You can see the really fun background with lots of holiday sentiments. Merry and bright, holly jolly, and joy. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. This is also an American Standard A2 size card. I'll be adding one of the Eyelet rectangle die cuts, and I did cut it out of vellum. But first I'll assemble the Christmas stocking. I used pink and red cardstock for the main portion of the stocking, some white shimmer cardstock for the top of the stocking. The little stitched areas, I realized I cut the smaller piece for the toe, so I did need to go and cut another piece. I'll adhere all of those together with some glue. Now I'll add the little string to hang the stocking using the same red color that I used for the heel and toe of the stocking. Inside this stocking, I'm adding an apple, a bear, and a small tree. The apple is from the Fall Basket die set. Use red cardstock for the apple, brown cardstock for the stem. I'll just adhere those 2 pieces together. The tree is from the new Holiday Mug Editions, and the bear is from the Candy Treat set. It's intended to be a gummy bear, but I'm making it a stuffed bear. Instead of inlaying the tiny eyes, I'm gluing a small piece of black cardstock on the back side. Now I'll add all of the presents inside the stocking, putting a little bit of glue on the back of the stocking. The bear will be in front, the tree will be behind on the right side, and the apple will go behind on the left side. I'll put a small piece of double-sided adhesive tape on the back side to secure those in place. I'll be adding a red glitter bow, and the bow die is from the Holiday Mug Edition set. I cut out several pine branches from the Pine Sprig die set, and I'm gluing them to the very top of the Eyelet rectangle die cut. I'll layer the branches to create a nice full garland at the top of the card. Right now the vellum rectangle is not attached to the card. First I want to add all the other die cuts, then I'll put adhesive on the back and adhere it. I have one final branch to adhere. Now I'll remove the release paper on the double-sided adhesive tape, and I'll pop up the stocking with some thin foam squares. Make sure to get good coverage so there isn't one area that sags. Then I'll remove the release paper and add my stocking on the vellum rectangle. I'm placing the stocking so it looks like it's hanging from the pine garland. Now I'll flip over the rectangle, put glue on the back just behind the die cut pieces, and adhere it to my card. Now I'll add the red glitter bow. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in the center of the pine garland. For a sentiment, I've already stamped out Merry and Bright. I'll adhere it in the lower left-hand corner. I'll cut the left side at a slight angle. And before adhering it down, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock on the very left side, just in the area where it goes off of the vellum rectangle. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of Pretty Pink Posh's sparkling clear jewels. I'll put 3 of them around the sentiment, and I'm using 3 different sizes. I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue, using an embellishment wand to pick those up, then pressing them in place. And I do want to mention the jewels do not come in the small box. I like to use them for storing my small embellishments. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This was a really fun card to make, no pattern paper at all. Now here's another look at the 4 cards I made using some of Pretty Pink Posh's brand new Christmas stencils and other stamp and dies. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.